What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Hope everybody's having a great day or night whenever you're watching this. The Dallas Mavericks, man, they're the hottest team in basketball, and they're straight up cooking teams badly. And they're beating teams by 10, 15 plus, and they're hitting their stride at the best time possible, coming right into the playoffs, trying to climb the seedings a little bit. And it's ultimately, they're just not going to be a team anybody wants to run into. And when you're playing your best basketball going into the playoffs, that is the bottom line. That's all that matters, is that you're clicking at the right time. So in this video, I'm going to kind of give you guys some reasons as to why I think they are the hottest team in basketball and why they are a playoff problem for a lot of teams to deal with. A lot of them are Luka-centric, but there is a lot of good role players on this team since the trades. And ultimately, there's a lot of good things going on overall. So in the comments, let me know how far you think the Dallas Mavericks will make it in the playoffs this year. What is your expectation? And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Please like the video. But we're going to start with Luka because he's obviously the most important factor in the entire equation. Right, when you have an MVP level player who he might be on the final lap taking the MVP right now, it says a lot, and it's something that no team wants to play against. And my argument for Luka is it's like if you double team him, they're honestly might be more dangerous. Because now you have Kyrie getting it in a 4-on-3, and he's going to make the good decision 9 times out of 10. And he's kicking to Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and others, of course, and they're knocking down threes. What do you even do at that point? So if you don't double Luka, then he's going 1-on-1, and I'm sorry. It doesn't matter who you are. You're not locking him up. And if you do, it's maybe for 2 minutes, and then the other 40 that he plays, he's gonna put 38 on you. And it's a lose-lose when he's so good at passing because you can't do anything about that. And that's how you know when you have like a generational kind of player, is when you literally cannot do anything that's going to ultimately stop him. He's going to put his stamp on the game one way or another. And we've seen what Luka does in the playoffs. And he rises to the occasion time in and time out. We saw it with the Suns. They effed around and found out. We've seen it with the Clippers in the past. Granted, he had less talent on his teams, and the Clippers were I would say, a lot more talented overall. But now is not the case because they got a lot of depth and they got a superstar player. And anytime you have that, you have a chance. And the team as a whole in the last 10 games is 9-1. And it's not like they played the Spurs 6 times, or the Spurs, the Pistons, the Hornets, the Wizards. It's not like they played those teams. They played the Jazz a couple times. They did play the Spurs once, but they beat Houston twice. Houston was the other hottest team in the league. Okay, they beat Houston twice. They beat the Kings twice. They beat Denver. Those are all teams that are like either fighting for the playoffs, in the playoffs. They also beat the Dubs. So they've beaten good quality teams that are like over 500. They beat the Bulls, who are in the playoffs in the East right now. They have a lot of good quality wins on this. It's not like they just beat the scraps that are at the bottom of the league. They took on some very good teams. The only loss they had was to OKC. And I'll be the first person to tell you, losing to OKC is it's nothing to be ashamed about, because they've got another MVP level player in Shea. J-Dub's killing it. Chet. Giddey's figuring it out. They're a whole other problem too. But this isn't an OKC video. This is a Dallas Mavericks video because they've been the hottest team in the league. They're led by an MVP level player, and he also has a sidekick that he says is the Batman. And I think it's funny because every player that knows they're the Batman tries to prop their second guy up and tell him that he is. But we all know Luka. We know Kyrie is the Robin in this case. But from time to time, he can turn into Batman for a fourth quarter or two. He can do that. He can carry you for sure. But we know when teams go into that scouting report, who do they start with? They start with Luka. But Kyrie as the second option on this team. We've seen a Kyrie team with him as a second option go win a championship. We've seen that happen in the past. Granted, it was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was, 8 years ago even maybe. But he's still, I would say he's probably smarter now, and he still has that same juice. I don't think he's lost a step in any way of the word. I also think that they got him like looking rejuvenated with this team. Like, he's dunking again, and when you see Kyrie start dunking, that's when you know that he's feeling at home and where he's at. That's where you can tell he's happy. And he plays just so much better overall because you see the bounce. And one thing that I will say about Kai is that defensively, no one ever talks about it with him. The one-on-one defense he possesses, even off-ball defense too, when he wants to lock in and lock somebody down, his perimeter defense is very good. And you don't talk about it because, he's got the crazy handle, he's got the crazy finishes, can shoot from anywhere, can score from anywhere, and can do all these amazing things on offense. But defensively, when you need it, Kai can lock up. And I think in a playoff series, Luka hasn't had a co-star that could lock up from time to time. That's just my 2 cents on Kai, and I think that he's going to be obviously the second most important piece to how far they go. Ultimately, it's great when you have a 1-2 punch like Kai and Luka. That is arguably the best one in the league. But outside of those star players, you got to have some role players, right? I alluded to it earlier. When you have a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. who comes off your bench and puts up 15 a game, splashes some threes, it makes it hard on defenses because if we double Luka, Kyrie gets the ball, then I've got Tim Hardaway Jr. open in the corner. I've got Tim can ISO. Like, you have that kind of advantage that not every team in the league has with their sixth man. And he's definitely in that sixth man of the year running for sure. I think it's him, Malik Monk, and maybe some others. But having him off the bench is nice, right? Because he can provide so much scoring punch. And defenses have to respect it. You don't want to just let him take open threes because he will burn you. Josh Green is another one that I think is like a sleeper because you don't hear a lot of teams talk about him, but he's one of those guys. He shoots 40% from three, so he spaces the floor. He's super bouncy, super athletic, very good defender, and I think he's an underrated playmaker. He's very good at creating when he attacks to the rim, when he's slashing, very good at it. He's one of those players. I think he's missed the last couple games with some injury, but he's going to be back. He'll be fine. He's one of those dudes that is going to pose problems in a playoff series because he's that gritty kind of guy that'll get under your skin, and not everybody likes playing against that, and that's something that you need in the playoffs. You need some edge. So I love what Josh Green could do and does do for that matter. Then you have guys like PJ Washington, who any given night can put up 20 and has actually kind of bought into playing defense a little bit. Gets you 6-7 boards a game, and from time to time can space the floor. That's not really what his game is, but PJ can play. I haven't even got to the centers, and I think the centers is the biggest transition for what this team has dealt with over the past 2-3 years because they've always been short and undersized. Now they got a couple trees. Derek Lively, as a rookie, is definitely all rookie player this year. He definitely is making one of those two teams. He's been very good when he's needed to be. Improving rim protection. He was already pretty solid at it, and he's been getting better and better and better, which is nice to see. And then you have Daniel Gafford, who I think has been starting lately, and he's just seemingly can't miss a shot. I mean, the dude I think made 33 straight shots a couple weeks ago or whatever it was over a 5 or 6 game stretch, whatever that was. You have a legit front court now with the bigs. You actually have some size, and you're not just giving up. You don't have to just out-effort everybody to get rebounds. You have legitimate big men who can go out there, get boards, clean the glass, protect the rim. And it kind of alleviates a little pressure off guys like Luka and Kyrie and Tim Hardaway and Derek Jones Jr., who I'm going to talk about in a second. Dudes that are kind of near the point of attack. Now, granted, they try and hide Luka a lot, but getting to Derek Jones Jr., he's one of those guys that provides that defensive value and that bounce and transition plays. He's very good. And he can sometimes hit a three here and there. He's not knocked down by any means, but he'll hit one every once in a while. So he's the ultimate part with Derek is that he plays defense. And he's a wing, and he's a big wing with long arms that plays defense. He's just a little skinny, but he's super athletic, so that allows him to make up for maybe getting bullied a little bit. Very good defender to have on your team. And then you have a guy like Dante Exum, who I didn't know this until I looked at it, but 52% from three. Granted, it's only 2 attempts a game, but 52% from three is crazy no matter how many attempts it is almost. Because that, and if you're a Laker fan, you know, because he hit 6 in a game against us. But I didn't know he was shooting that well from three. I know he's not taking a bunch, but 52% is crazy. And he can create off ball. He can defend on ball. He can defend off ball. He's playing very well in this kind of mix and match scheme with Luka and Kyrie and filling in the gaps when he needs to. So they've really got a nice 9-man rotation, which is, I think that's the perfect number because you don't got to figure out who you're cutting out of the rotation. These are most likely going to be our guys going into a playoff series. And we might change some lineups and stuff, but ultimately, who's probably going to be playing. And it's not like the coach has a super hard decision to make. Which just simplify the game sometimes. That's all a coach needs to do, and sometimes coaches overthink it. Jason Kidd is a pretty solid coach, in my opinion. I know Mavs fans have been kind of torn on him over the past year or two, but I think he's a solid coach. I think overall they just needed the pieces. You need the personnel in order to win in the NBA. When you don't have any big men who can pose a threat on the rim or protect the rim, you're going to have paint problems, which is what they dealt with for a couple of years. When you're having paint problems, you have to collapse on the paint, which gives up more threes, so your defense is piss poor. Not quite the issue anymore when you have Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford sitting back there, and then PJ Washington kind of actually buying in on defense, and Derek Jones Jr. and Dante Exum, like dudes actually giving a damn on that side of the ball. It allows dudes like Luka and Kyrie to, like, we're just going to annihilate you when we have the ball. Because we got more gas. Because we're not stuck out here locking in on everybody all game long on defense. We don't have to do that. But when we do, we can do it. I just think the Mavs are just one of those teams where it's like, what do you do? I really think it's just hope and pray to a degree. Like, just hope that they're not hitting threes. Hope that Kyrie's having a stinker. But beating them 4 times in a 7-game series is going to be a nightmare for anyone. I've said that about a few teams because the West is so loaded that legitimately anybody 1 through 10, I would say, could make a Western Conference Finals. I've never seen it that way before. And that's some special stuff. And you got the Mavs being this team that's catching heat right at the time before the playoffs, and they're getting a little bit healthier and they're finding their groove. That's the best case scenario for anybody going into the playoffs. But anyway, let me know how you think the Mavs are going to do in the playoffs. I think they're going to be an absolute nightmare for anyone to play, especially beating them 4 times. But ultimately, the one playoff series I would love to see is the Clippers versus the Mavs. Give me that in the first round. 3 versus 6. Whatever we got to do to make it happen. Or 4 versus 5. Whatever it has to be. Clippers, Mavs. Give me Kawhi and Paul George and James Harden versus Luka and Kyrie and company. That's like my hope for the Western Conference first round. That's the one series I want to see the most. Let me know in the comments if that's a series you would love to see. Because I feel like Luka's just had bad luck against the Clippers in the past with players getting injured and not having enough juice on his team. Now I feel like they have enough, and they could definitely make it happen. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Please like the video. Appreciate you for watching. Shout out the Mavs for hitting their groove right at the perfect time, because they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. And I wouldn't want to be the Clippers or anybody that has to play them in the first round, because that's going to be a nightmare.